Well, hey! We got both things. 2-0,
Yeah.
USA 2, Costa Rica 0,
Yeah.
and I think a good performance to go with it.
Yeah, I think so.
Welcome to the quick take hot take of USA 2, Costa Rica 0, US Gold Cup semi-final, US win. This is the quick take hot take. It's a short review. We'll be back later tonight with the long review.
We will.
So initial reactions.
Is that you're Daryl Grove and I'm Taylor Rockwell, and you seem sort of surprised. You seem almost at a loss for words with your enthusiasm here.
Right, because it's been, all through the group stage and the quarterfinal, it's been... Yeah, that was an okay result, but the performance wasn't quite there. The passing wasn't quite there. I know this wasn't like a world-beating performance. We're not going to take on Germany tomorrow and win. But suddenly, I feel optimistic and positive about this US team.
It's like isn't it Ned Stark saying that, to keep it family-friendly, you can cut out everything before the but?
Yes.
So you're saying we're not going to beat Germany, but maybe we will beat Germany?
Well, luckily we won't have to face Germany in the Gold Cup final.
Yeah, thankfully for that. It's probably Mexico, but I guess we shall see. We shall see.
Mexico or Jamaica.
But I think you're absolutely right, and I think we saw this at the end of the first half. Still 0-0, obviously, at that point, but you could hear in the first half commentary, both Landon Donovan and Stu Holden very up on the USA's performance. I think we were as well, because they kind of did exactly what we wanted them to do from the preview. It was a little bit of high pressure, but it wasn't too much pressure. It wasn't overcommitting, but it wasn't sitting back. It was going at Costa Rica. And I think kind of putting them on the defensive right away with Jordan Morris hitting the post really could have put the United States ahead.
From kickoff, right? It was a Zusi long ball for the Areola flick on. Altidore played in Morris, and we've hit the post in the first minute. And we talked in the preview about how we were worried that the US would, or Costa Rica would establish a slow pace, and they'd try and draw the US out and then try and hit us over the top if they drew us out. US just went for it instead. And to the point where I'm convinced that the semi-famous Bruce Arena moment, where early on he's complaining about the ball boys and they're only 8 years old, and they're not doing it fast enough, it's taking forever to get the ball back in play.
Who's in charge of the ball kids?
Yeah. I think the US plan was keep the tempo high. Yeah. Keep the tempo high right down to get the ball back in play quickly. And Bruce Arena was frustrated. It's not just that he's really strong on child labour laws, it's that he really wanted that ball to be back in play as quickly as possible. Keep this thing moving.
Yeah, I think, and we saw that later on because he was still really annoyed with the ball kids for taking time to get the ball into play for a U.S. corner, I believe it was at that point.
He's nothing if not consistent in his complaints.
Yeah, right? and I think in that situation, the first time, the mic was on him, the camera was on him, you could clearly hear what he was saying. The second time, it was a wide-angle shot of the United States getting ready to take a corner, and you could still hear him having words with the fourth official.
It's kind of been, low-key, one of my favourite things about this Gold Cup is the times that they've gone to Bruce Arena and he's been mid-rant. He's been swearing twice on camera, and they haven't cut away. They've just been yep, it's Gold Cup, we're going with it.
That's one of my favorite things about Bruce Arena. I gotta say my second favorite one, as a bit of a tangent, I really love a band called The Dead South, and they have a song called In Hell I'll Be in Good Company. Yeah. And the entire video is
like a hipsterish band with big beards, but country-ish music,
bluegrass. Yeah, but the whole video is them doing the exact same thing, but it's in all these different settings. So the setting just keeps changing in the background. And I feel like you could do just a montage of Bruce Arena's celebration because it's always in a
tan suit.
It's he's gone. I noticed this too. He went from wearing U.S. equipment in the 2002. I'm pretty sure he has a U.S. polo in 2002.
Oh, he's a younger man.
Exactly. And I think slowly he's been I'm not wearing tracksuits. Yeah. Give me that suit.
He's aged into a suit.
But it's always this sort of fist pump, and then it's a sideways pull with the fist pump. I feel like you could do that and just not juxtapose, but edit that so it's just his celebration throughout the years, and it would stay pretty consistent. So those are my two running Bruce Arena narratives.
We talked about it during the game. It's the I'm getting older, I'm not going to move my joints too much. Low impact celebration, right? Yep. Just arm forward, then arm slightly to the side.
Yeah, he learned from Sir Alex Ferguson. Same type of thing. But I guess we should probably also talk about what happened on the field.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, we're in bubbly mood, right? 'Cause it's been a while since we saw the US be so sort of exciting to watch, and yet at the same time, apart from that Jordan Morris hitting the post in the first minute thing, it seemed like the US didn't manage to get behind Costa Rica that much early on. And yet it was encouraging because they were moving the ball quickly. Is that fair?
Yeah, and I think that was the thing, is that it wasn't like the United States was having really good possession between the center backs and Michael Bradley, or the United States was kind of doing some smash and grab tactics or inviting Costa Rica in and then springing the attack. I think late in the first half, in the 37th minute or something like that, the possession stats were 78% USA. So it was clearly...
Is that right?
Yeah, they kept possession for a good long stretch of time. And so I think that was sort of what people have wanted to see from the United States. It's going at the opponent, putting them under pressure.
It's a good opponent.
Really really not letting them get into any sort of rhythm, any sort of flow. Yes, Costa Rica had opportunities. A lot of them were because of kind of silly mistakes from the United States, and we'll go back, watch those, kind of cast more light upon them in the full review.
And so to underline this, if no one's listened to a quick take, hot take before, we've hit record maybe 30 seconds after the final whistle. Like, we just made sure the microphones were pointing at our faces, hit record. We're going to do a full rewatch and go over things in detail to make sure about what we're saying. But I'm going to say there are a couple of Omar Gonzalez moments when he let people sort of get behind him. And Costa Rica almost had a goal when Urena got in behind him. I think Howard saved him. But that was all forgotten very quickly because Josie Altidore had the ball in the back of the net.
Yes, and that definitely made up for it because I have 71st minute, Timmy ! Omar ? And then I have 82nd minute or 72nd minute, Josie ! So yes, that kind of shows you where we were.
So lovely finish from Josie Altidore, right? Yep. We noticed he sort of didn't look up. He was looking at the ball and the keeper the whole time, and I think that was like he knows where the goal is, but he's looking where the keeper is. But it all comes from Clint Dempsey.
Yep.
I think Dempsey comes off the bench. He's been it seems like there's some sort of internal dispute between Dempsey and Urena about whether Dempsey should just play every minute of every match or he should be kind of a 30-minute impact player.
Here's a topical reference for you. It reminds me of The Waterboy with Adam Sandler, where have you really not? Oh, you poor man. It was back when Adam Sandler was still funny. Or right on the verge. But
Adam Sandler's about to have a renaissance, by the way, based on what I've heard.
I feel like Adam Sandler's been about to have a renaissance for a very long time. But no, in that movie, basically, he becomes this amazing linebacker because he just visualizes the person he's trying to hit as the person who is mean to him, and then he just destroys them. That seems like Clint Dempsey. I feel like he just visualizes the person who's done him an injustice, done him wrong, then he goes out and scores because he's so angry. So I do wonder if they're just sort of saying, like, hey, that guy, he hates rap music. See what you can do. That wall right there, it doesn't like self-made hip-hop videos. And then he goes out and scores on it, and there you go.
So is my memory correct that it's Dempsey with the assist, right? It's a very, very nice pass into Josie Altidore.
It's a really nice turn, and then
that's what I was going to ask. Was it the build-up as he receives the ball and turns and gets away really quickly? Like a young man.
Yep, I've got Dempsey turn, Dempsey touch, Dempsey pass, Josie goal. That's basically the sequence there.
Wonderful, wonderful stuff. And great to see Dempsey connecting with Altidore because, the last game we didn't really see that in a way that gave us too much optimism.
No,
right?
and so I know some people are going to be saying, well, this is why he needs to start every game, that he is that creative force that the United States needs. Now, number
that's
one...
True. He also set up Kellyn Acosta for that shot with a nice turn and pass. Remember that?
And then scores the free kick as well.
The second goal with that great free kick,
Equalized Landon Donovan as the joint all-time top scorer.
I enjoyed the shot of Stu Holden sort of hugging Donovan. It was like half celebration, half commiseration, which is about right.
And I very much enjoyed when they showed the new table and Dempsey was on top, and much to Donovan's chagrin, with him responding, "Shouldn't I be on top?" And Stu Holden reminded him, "Alphabetical, my friend." But I think that it still means that Dempsey should be a substitute. And I know some people will take issue with that. I'd say number one, because when you're looking at having a creative number 10 in this team when they're at full strength, it's going to be Christian Pulisic. So I'd rather put Dempsey in a position where he is used to coming off the bench and having an impact. But number two, I think a big part of the reason why he had such an impact is because Costa Rica were so on the ropes from everything the United States had done in this game that he could kind of go in at a semi-fatigued, semi-shell-shocked, or at least semi-sort of not on the gas, foot on the gas opponent and kind of do what he wanted to do with him, and that's exactly what he did.
I agree. It's rough, right? Because when you have a big impact coming in for the last 30 minutes or so, you can't prove that you should start. You can only prove that you can have a big impact coming in for the last 30 minutes or so. So you're almost building the case that you should be a substitute.
You are. I would say this, though, and I know that, again, I've said this a couple different times on a couple different shows, that both, many of my in-laws are gerontologists, which means, old is a pejorative term in my family now. So I wouldn't say that it's a matter of getting old, but I would say if Clint Dempsey were a 19-year-old and came off the bench and had a goal and assist, we would probably be saying, oh, he should definitely start the next game. He is the next player. If that were Christian Pulisic, we would be saying he should absolutely be starting. Why isn't he starting? But because it's Clint Dempsey and he's got the miles he has on those legs, I don't think he can work as well, and I think that's that difference. That's why it isn't quite that demand for, he should play the full 90 minutes every single game.
I agree, but here's the thing, right? I also get that, say he goes to the World Cup, which I really feel like he should at this point for experience and just for what he can do with the ball, which is still the most important thing, right? you wouldn't say he should start every game because that's a lot of games in a short space of time and you will run him down eventually, right? But when it comes to a big game and there are no more big games after it, as we will on Wednesday with the Gold Cup final against either Mexico or Jamaica, then there's a decision of, okay, we don't have to worry about tiring him out over the course of a tournament. There's just, does he start this game or does he come off the bench? We'll preview the final later when we know the opponent, but that's going to be a massive, massive decision and will say a lot about what Bruce Arena thinks about Clint Dempsey's role, correct?
Yeah, and I'll say this, like I think I would prefer to see him come off the bench because I thought the United States looked very good tonight, and I think they can continue to look very good against that particular potentially Mexico team, if it is Mexico in the final.
Or Jamaica.
I think they can continue to look just as good as they did tonight against that team, and I think Dempsey can look just as good tonight as he did against that team if he's coming off the bench.
True.
That said, I won't be too upset if he is starting.
Okay.
Put it that way. Like, I'm not sort of like, no, it's got to be this way.
So it's a can't-lose situation, right? Because you either either have Dempsey come in for an impact later on, or you get him starting, and you can be excited about that.
I mean, if Dempsey is starting, it means probably Jordan Morris is not, would be my guess.
Yeah.
Because I think that midfield that you saw tonight, maybe Paul Arriola could change up a little bit, but I think against Mexico, you're probably going to see Nagbe on the left, Acosta and Bradley in the middle. I think you're always going to start Josie Altidore, barring injury, which means it's probably Jordan Morris who loses out. And I thought Jordan Morris was one of the best players on the field for the United States tonight.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about other players outside of Clint Dempsey then. Let's start with Jordan Morris.
Sure.
What do you like about him?
Again,
this is after one watch,
I mean,
right?
obviously, it's a lot of effort. He was the one who was doing a very good job of chasing people down, putting people under pressure, and I think he did a good job of adjusting that game plan. I think it was Stu Holden or maybe Landon Donovan who spotted in about the 25th or 30th minute that Kendall Waston was coming very far wide to get the ball
on the left.
because they realized that the United States were keeping those forwards in the middle and kind of trying to put the pressure through the middle. So then Costa Rica tried to spread the field, and the U.S. did a really good job of responding, and I think a big part of that was the movement and pace of Jordan Morris really causing problems for Costa Rica.
Okay.
But aside from that, I just thought he looked composed on the ball. I thought he always looked like a player that Costa Rica were worried about.
Yes.
And that's a thing you want. You want them to be
You'll
distracted.
do that if you hit the post in the first minute.
I mean, exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, I felt like even though you're not going to see it in terms of he didn't get a goal, I'm just checking, did not get the assist because you don't get the assist for drawing a free kick, and I don't think even he did that. I'm pretty sure that was Kellen Acosta. But I just think he probably won't get many of the plaudits because of Clint Dempsey's performance, but I think he deserves them because I think he worked pretty freaking hard.
Okay, yeah, I'll rewatch that then because I wasn't so impressed. But I don't have any complaints, but it wasn't the name I would come up with as my the player that impressed me the most.
Yeah.
All right, the player that did impress me the most because I think he always does because he's kind of my favourite player at this point.
I know who you're going to say.
Darley Nags.
Yep.
Darlington Nagbe.
Ooh, that's a new one.
Played.
I've not heard Darley Nags before.
It's it's what Pete Holmes would call him. Right?
Probably.
After playing centre mid with Bradley.
That's who you're modeling yourself on now. Yeah. That's trouble.
My laugh would need to be a lot more.
Ooh, let's not do that.
So Bradley and Nagbe in the middle.
If you do that, I'm going to be TJ Miller. I'm just saying.
Bradley and Nagbe in the middle against El Salvador. I kind of enjoyed seeing Nagbe through the middle because he would keep the ball moving, lots of 1-2s. But we got to see him on the left again, effective in a different way, I would say.
Have we officially decided that it's going to be Nagbe skating? Is that what we've decided to call this?
There is that thing, when he gets the ball and he sort of seems to glide away from people.
It's very slalomy.
It's very slalomy. Well, no, slalom is left and right?
But it's more so he's weaving between posts, basically. But it is just, I think it's because it's low to ground and it's but long gait at the same time. So it just seems and he's very it's the way you'd expect someone to drive a motorcycle in a competitive race where they get really low and then they get really low and they switch sides. That's kind of how he runs. He's very low to the ground, but really causes problems for the offense.
I think maybe the reason skating is good is because it does look like he's got an ice track and he's on ice skates and he can sort of roll away or skate away from people and they're just wearing regular shoes.
You went inline skating, did you? All right.
But they're wearing regular shoes and they can't catch up with him because it is always him pulling away from people. And we saw that so many times. We also saw him making sure possession was not lost. Right, he's always even if he's not causing a big impact, he is keeping the ball, moving the ball the whole time, and he can do that from the left or through the middle as well.
We did see him get nutmegged from 40 yards out. Just saying. I
think he just didn't know that ball was dropping. I think he thought maybe Josie would get there first.
That's definitely one that looks so much more brutal on replay than it did live. But yeah.
The other guy I want to talk about is Kellen Acosta.
Sure.
So we've been slightly disappointed with his performances so far in this tournament because we had high hopes coming in, right? I want to say, again, it needs a rewatch, but I want to say this is his best game of the Gold Cup.
I mean, first of all, that's a low bar. But I think I'd agree with that. But I think he is the one that I'm most excited or most interested to rewatch because I feel like I had moments where I thought he was very good and moments where I thought he was very bad. But I think similar to, I think Clint Dempsey needs to be in that World Cup squad. I think not only is Kellen Acosta going to be in that World Cup squad, I do think he's probably a starter at this point. So I'm interested. Yeah, I think so. I think with the way the United States midfield is going to be under Bruce Arena, I think if you're going with a more defensive setup, it's probably going to be Bradley and Acosta in the middle.
I think that's the thing. Is against a tough opponent, he's very, very likely to start. But I mean, I guess you mostly get tough opponents at the World Cup.
You do.
So there's that.
You do. But I would really, honestly, the way the United States has been playing, like, and I don't mean like good, I mean the way that they've been playing in terms of Bruce Arena likes the guys he likes. I would not be surprised if right now, if you were to ask Bruce Arena to drop his starting 11 for the World Cup against like a moderate opponent, I feel like you're going to get Josie Altidore, Christian Pulisic in behind him, Nagbe on one side, Ariel on the other, and Acosta. Ooh, that's a good shout. Yeah. And Acosta and Bradley sitting. Maybe Fabian Johnson in there as well. Yeah,
maybe ahead of Paul Areola. But I think it's Areola's inching closer with, I think another not perfect but very good performance tonight.
Not going to lie, I kind of forgot about Fabian Johnson. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've seen him.
One more guy I want to talk about before we end the quick take, hot take, and go back and rewatch this. Graham Zusi. That's
fine.
A guy that
I got one more after that. But
but we've always been a little concerned about Zusi's positioning. We're not concerned about him on the ball, but maybe his defensive positioning from right back.
Yeah.
A little better tonight, or at least no obvious mistakes.
I mean, I think he had one or two where they kept talking about the announcer's curse in this game because every time they'd praise somebody, they'd do something bad. I think Graham Zusi had two of those with you where you're like, his positioning's been better, and then the ball went over his head. And it was like, that's troubling. But this isn't the guy I want to talk about. But I do want to say that one thing I noticed is in the 88th minute, I told you about it, I spotted Omar Gonzalez looking over at the man that Graham Zusi was supposed to be marking. And he noticed that the man got away from Zusi a little bit. He had gotten goal side. And you can see Omar not say anything. He doesn't tell Zusi to mark up, and Zusi is ball watching, so that's not very good on his part. But another center back, if that were you and it were me who'd been beaten, you would say, Taylor, mark your man, mark your man.
But I'm very talky, right? I'm a very, very talky centre back and organising around me.
I mean, that's what you're supposed to be, in my opinion. And if you're a centre back and you spot that, you got to learn to delegate. And Omar Gonzalez instead tracks that run, and to do so, he drops off 5 yards. And we've seen him do that time and time again in this Gold Cup, that he worries about the man and doesn't tell the person to stay with him. He anticipates the run and drops off, which is good that he's anticipating the run, but now he's broken the back line himself. He's taken himself out of position where he needs to be, and he's really not helping Graham Zusi. So to your question, I think Zusi looked better, but I do wonder if part of the problem in this game is that Zusi doesn't have someone talking to him and helping him just know, like, oh, I need to drop back a little bit. Oh, I shouldn't go up that time. If maybe the communication isn't quite there yet.
But I don't want to blame that on Omar Gonzalez because we've seen Zusi struggle at right back with multiple centre-back partners.
Very true. I think that one moment stood out to me because we did see Omar have a few of those moments where it was sort of like, are you ball watching again? What are you doing? And I do wonder if he is just constantly trying to react to everything without realizing that he doesn't need to do everything.
And this we shouldn't go too deep on this because it is the quick take, hot take, but I think the problem is that he's mostly successful doing that. You know what I mean? So he almost gets rewarded for doing it because then he's the guy that gets there and wins the ball. So it kind of works out okay.
But sometimes
until it doesn't.
Until it doesn't, and this is the final point that I wanted to make. Yeah. You said it during the game, worth repeating. We are very lucky to have Tim Howard. Yes. And yes, he's at an advanced age. Some of the saves tonight were, he saved 2 goals. He stops 2 goals. Not like he made 2 saves. He stopped 2 different breakaways. One, I believe, with his feet. One with his hands. He stopped another one in the knockout round game against El Salvador.
Yeah, that was the Lehigh back pass.
Yeah, which
I'm sure is the reason Lehigh did not have a chance of starting tonight.
Yeah, and I think it's just easy to sort of forget how good Tim Howard is because we think about his age, we think about, is this his last World Cup? Shouldn't there be youngsters coming through and challenging him? Is Brad Guzan challenging him? And you forget that, no, Tim Howard is Tim Howard, and there's a reason why we love him.
Yeah, and we shouldn't bring him off the bench with 30 minutes to go. We should maybe start him.
We should not, but I will say every time he takes a goal kick and it's a little bit low, I'm like, oh no,
I tense up. A doctor.
He had one where he took a touch and then hit it with his left foot, and it was kind of a worm burner, and I was a little bit like, oh no, please. Please don't cut back to Tim Howard on the ground holding his groin.
All right, let's shut down the quick take, hot take. We're going to go rewatch this game again, and we'll be out with our long version of the review of USA 2, Costa Rica 0.